After Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944 and then later on President Nixon's declaration in 1971, dollar has been recognized as a trade currency worldwide for international trade. But recently, countries are backing out and they are thinking of an alternative way to reduce the dollar's dominance. Now, I will talk about an interesting article that was published on foreign policy about BRICS currency and its impact. Let's talk about the origin of BRICS. Jim O'Neill, an economist of Goldman Sachs, coined the phrase in 2001 to emphasize the combined potential of four major emerging economies, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, who will collectively dominate the global economy by 2050. Between 2006 to 9, they formed BRICS, and on 2011, South Africa joined there and made it BRICS. BRICS holds annual summits to discuss various issues including trade, finance, development, energy, and technology. BRICS has established mechanisms such as the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement for economic development and financial stability. On 2023, 19 countries have expressed interest to join BRICS, including Saudi Arabia. Now let's talk about the significance of BRICS. The BRICS economies continued moving in the general direction of a more open and supportive investment policy environment. The potential for inter-BRICS investment remains promising. BRICS nations hold 45% of world's total population. The BRICS community plays a critical role in setting global economic policy and the promoting financial stability, accounting for 17% of global trade and one-third of global GDP. BRICS introduced new development bank with $1,000 billion reserve, which funded several big developmental projects over these regions. China will use it for the success of their Belt Road Initiative project. China, Russia, and in future Saudi Arabia can create an oil monopoly over the world. BRICS countries in future can introduce BRICS currency, which might impact in de-dollarization and create potential fall of US economy. So let's talk about BRICS currency, why it is necessary for several countries and they're interested about it. What is actually exchange rate? Exchange rate is the rate at which one currency is converted into another. Normally in any kind of international trade, US dollar is being used for a long time. Recently, Russian officials have been championing de-dollarization to ease the pain from sanctions. Because of sanctions, Russian banks have been unable to use SWIFT, the global messaging system that enables bank transaction, and the West froze Russia's $330 billion in reserves last year. 2022 election in Brazil reinstated Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva as president. Lula is a long-time proponent of BRICS who previously sought to reduce Brazil's dependence on and vulnerability to the dollar. He has re-energized the group's commitment to the de-dollarization and spoken about creating a new euro-like currency. The Chinese government has also clearly laid out its concern with the dollar's dominance, labeling it a main source of instability and uncertainty in the world economy. Beijing directly blamed the Fed's interest rate hike for causing turmoil in the international financial market and substantial depreciation of the other currencies. Together with other BRICS countries, China has also criticized the use of sanctions as a global weapon. Moreover, 84.3% of international transactions conducted in US dollar and compared to 4.5% in Chinese yuan. BRICS currency might change that. Over the past year, Russia, China, and Brazil have turned to greater use of non-dollar currencies in their cross-border transaction. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and United Emirates are actively exploring dollar alternatives, and central banks have sought to shift more of their currency reserves away from the dollar and into gold. So BRICS currency will provide a solution here. But the problem is that all other currencies have to have a reserve of US dollar in the bank to do all kinds of foreign transaction. That has boosted US economy for a long time. On the other hand, USA can print as much money as they want. Right, so far we have talked about the reason for the BRICS currency. In August 2023, South Africa will host the leaders of BRICS nation. BRICS summit comes as countries across the world are confronting a changing geopolitical landscape that is challenging the traditional dominance of the West. After this Ukraine-Russia war, Russia went through a lot of sanctions from a lot of countries, which forced them to think of an alternative way. Using BRICS currency, they can avoid dollar even in bilateral trades. In the new era, after the US-China trade war, China's relationship with USA is questionable. And to create dominance in this new era, they also want a new currency avoiding US dollar. In US Treasury, China has 1 trillion US dollar. If China doesn't need US dollar to purchase oil, they will sell that and will devalue dollar instantly. It will shake up international monetary policy and dollar will lose its liquid value. On top of that, if Saudi Arabia joins and if Russia and Saudi Arabia decides to import and export oil with BRICS currency within BRICS nation, this will create a huge impact on US economy and its currency. Soon BRICS will take more countries and if they start trading with BRICS currency, this will question US dollar's demand and appeal in the market, devaluing US dollar more in future. If these two superpower joins with India and Latin America's largest economical superpower Brazil, they are already in the upper hand. Geopolitical impact of BRICS. Though BRICS China is trying to implement through BRICS, China is trying to implement their One Belt Road initiative successfully, reduce Western influence in those countries. China is trying to access into and create good relationship with Saudi Arabia and with the Muslim world. China, Russia, and India, these three superpower will make a coalition and might help each other in times of need. Russia will get more allies to avoid the impact of sanctions from rest of the world. BRICS nations will hold most of the reserve of oil in the world, which will give them an upper hand in negotiating deals and future foreign policies. In future, they might go for counter trade among the BRICS nations, which refers to a range of barter-like agreements through which goods and services can be traded for other goods and services. So far, we have talked about BRICS, its significance, and why it has why nations are interested about it. Now I will talk about the progress right now. In 2010, the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism was launched to facilitate cross-border payments between BRICS banks in local currencies. BRICS nations have been developing BRICS Pay, a payment system for transaction among the BRICS without having to convert local currency into dollars. And there has been talks of BRICS cryptocurrency and of strategically aligning the development of central bank digital currencies to promote currency interoperability and economic integration. Since many countries expressed an interesting interest in joining BRICS, the group is likely to scale its de-dollarization agenda. In 2014, when the BRICS countries launched a new development bank, its founding agreement outlined that its operation may provide financing in the local currency of the country in which the operation takes place. Yet in 2023, the bank remains heavily dependent on the dollar for its survival. Local currency financing represents around 22% of bank's portfolio, although its new president hopes to increase that to 30% by 2026. In short, for a new currency to work, BRICS would need to agree to an exchange rate mechanism, have efficient payment system and a well-regulated, stable and liquid financial market. To achieve a global currency status, BRICS would need a strong track record of joint currency management to convince others that the new currency is reliable. A BRICS version of Euro is unlikely for now, None of the countries involved show any desire to discontinue its local currency. Rather, the goal appears to be to create an efficient integrated payment system for cross-border transactions as the first step and then introduce a new currency. No doubt, talk of a new BRICS currency in itself is an important indicator of the desire of many nations to diversify away from the dollar. But I believe focusing on the BRICS currency risks missing the forest for the trees. A new global economic order will not emerge out of a new BRICS currency or de-dollarization happening overnight, but it can potentially emerge out of BRICS commitment to coordinating their policy and innovating something this currency initiative represents. Thank you.